What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another edition of 307 International. I'm Costas, or Costas with a K, or Costas Llanos, whatever it is that floats your boat. And it seems like it's going to be me, myself, and I steering us through tonight's show. And what a show this is! We are on a countdown until deadline. What deadline, you might ask me? Well, it's a countdown to deadline for the Europa League squad list, which will be complete in about 29 minutes. So Olympiacos are expecting to have quite a quiet night tonight. Um, it seems like all summer transfer business is complete with Sergio Oliveira officially being announced on a 2+1 deal coming from Galatasaray. But before we get to the nitty gritty stuff, if you haven't done so already, please do like and subscribe. The name of the podcast has changed, but the message, the services, and the character definitely hasn't. And speaking of services, do support us on Patreon. You can find us at 307 Internet INTL. You could join us and be part of our extremely lively WhatsApp group, which has taken a life of its own. You could join us, me and all of my co-hosts, and so many others from around the globe supporting the red and white. This is the place where we can tell you everything we cannot tell you on camera. And plus, you'll be getting some amazing perks, such as exclusive interviews that only air on Patreon. We got some exciting stuff coming up. And you also get some deleted scenes from our interviews, which only go up on Patreon. Guys, this is quite a night we're having right now. On the one hand, we are not expecting any big names coming in from the football side of things, but by God, we got some big basketball names that have a big basketball name that have joined us. And for this, I am going to need everyone's favorite co-host, everyone's favorite host, I should say, and another favorite host, but not as favorite as Labros,
What
I'd
an
like to
intro.
say. Well, Labro, you do know that. You do know me, man. You do know how I feel about you. Costa, you also know how I feel about you, but I usually say it off camera. So, guys, I am joined by none other than Labro Sirmos and Kostas Levoyanis. Guys, how are we feeling tonight?
Fantastic. Great night. Evan Fournier, the new song as well. The fans were singing for him. I'm excited. I'm excited for basketball. I'm
What's the
excited.
song?
Did I'm not going to sing the song, Costa. It's a bit.
There's too many.
It's
It's not for
it's maybe.
it's not for kids. This show, man. I mean, YouTube's got us
Come on,
covered.
I know children who. There's some children who watch the show. Surely. S'il vous plaît, s'il vous plaît. Anyway. Blanked up. Anyway, yeah.
It was a crazy reception, man. Like the guy is literally okay. He's come from Paris, so he's not come from far, but he's turned up to foreign country, like thousands of people waiting for him at the airport. He's tired. It's like past midnight in Greece. Doesn't know any of these people, but apparently the presidents, they kind of encouraged him to get out the car and go and say hello to the fans, and they all started getting in close, and he looked to be enjoying it. He recorded like himself, like selfie camera with him and the crowd. It's on all his socials now, and that's going absolutely crazy on Twitter, Instagram, everywhere, as you can imagine. He then got back in the car. He came out the roof and started fist pumping, and everyone's lighting flares. And then it was crazy. Nico, the guy that plays the trumpet from Gate 7, got up on the car and started playing the trumpet. Absolute, these are the things that you can only see. So my wife was saying to me, is like, that's crazy. Like, where does that happen? I was like, well, in Greece, Serbia, and Turkey, probably that's the only places you can see that kind of stuff happening.
Oh, come on now, guys. I mean, weren't we all around on planet Earth in May to see what was going on in Piraeus and Athens? I mean, that is weird. That is considered crazy. I mean, aren't we used to it by now? Every Greek in the world.
Yeah, okay, that's
That's a
Compare-
trophy. This is a player.
comparing a like once in a lifetime feat to bringing in a 12-year-old NBA almost vet. I won't call him a vet. I mean, he's 32.
He's a
Yeah,
vet. You call him
you can call him a
vet.
vet.
NBA,
You
yeah.
can call him a vet. Like 32-year-old, like, you know, player that's in decline in the NBA at least, but coming to the Euro League at this age, still an important piece in the French national team that got to the final of the Olympics is pretty big deal. Like, this kind of player that we were really looking for, somebody that can shoot the ball really, really well, somebody that fits the system of Olympiacos very well. He works very well off the ball. That's very much what Barzoka's system's about. He needs team players that can work off the ball like that. He's pretty good on the PNR, like pick and roll situation. He'll find Mustafa Fowl, his good friend from somebody he played with before he left for the NBA. So there's lots of good stuff, lots of reasons to be excited about Olympiacos basketball this season. I suppose that's like the big news of the night, because there's no there was no deadline day drama, so to speak, on the football side of things, but plenty for us to talk about tonight.
Well, okay. Since I think I've already said it. I don't think I'm going to say it tonight. Again, I'm going to remind everyone that's not going to make me anyone's most popular 307 international host here. But I need to ask you, since I don't really follow basketball myself. I haven't followed since the early 2000s. I know. Put this into context for me. So, what is this like? Let's say Olympiacos FC sign a major player like Fournier. Who is he like, Fournier, in football terms? Shall I dare say a name like Neymar?
No. Oh God, no. Fuck.
Okay.
And of course, this
Okay.
is like, you're like the meme, like in the US on Twitter. There's all these people who are like, they see a sport they don't know, and they're like, "Can you explain this in American football terms so I can understand?" Someone's like, "This is like if the New York Jets won the Super Bowl and Aaron Rodgers at 40." Okay, so Costa, I'll explain it to you. It's probably
I say football, by the way. I don't say the other word that they say over there on the other side of the pond. So what is it like?
It'd be like if Willian signed like 4 years ago or something, maybe. Is that 3 years ago? Costa, does that sound? Is that like right?
It's hard. It's hard to
He's
translate.
30. Willian is 36 years old, by the way.
Yeah, so like if Willian was like 3 to 4 years younger, maybe. I don't know. Like if he came straight from Chelsea instead of going to Arsenal, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Or did he go to Brazil and then Arsenal? I don't remember.
No, he went to Brazil after Arsenal, I think, and then went back to Fulham.
So if Willian signed for Olympiacos instead of Arsenal back then or something, maybe.
It's really hard to compare.
It's hard to compare, yeah.
It's really hard to draw that kind of comparison. Okay, like basketball's a 5-on-5 sport. It's like
but the NBA is the mecca. The NBA is the absolute mecca of.
Yeah, so it's like the Premier League of basketball. Like
it's far more than that. I mean, the NBA is a franchise that knows no limits. Basically, you don't have to be a basketball fan to know the NBA. Whereas if you're not a football fan, what are the chances of you knowing the Premier League? Just
maybe like drawing a direct comparison is difficult, but you can contextualize it by saying, you know, this is a guy that helped get France to the final of the Olympics just a few weeks ago. They won the silver medal. They lost to the US, who was the favorite to win. He's a player that's played at the top level for the last 12 years, made about $150 million in earnings while he was there. At the best, or at the kind of peak of his time in the NBA, he was averaging about 16 to 20 points a game. And you know, that went down to about 7.6, 8 points per game in his last season, if I remember that well. So, you know, he had a big choice to make this summer, whether he was gonna, you know, stay in a club like, I don't know, Washington Wizards. He revealed to L'Equipe just before he got on the plane to Athens that he had an offer to stay in the NBA and play for the Wizards, who picked up a couple of young French players from the draft. And, you know, he would have taken on this mentor role in the team, and he rejected that offer. Did I get cut off?
You did a bit, but you made sense. Well,
Am I
on my
back?
end, I could hear you. Yeah, you are.
Yeah, so I was saying he basically had a choice to make, like whether he would have a lesser role in the NBA and become like a mentor in an NBA team with a good salary, or come back to Europe and try and fight to win in the Euro League. And he's never played in that competition. So I suppose that's big motivation for him. It's the reason he joined the club is he wants to come and compete at a high level and compete for a trophy, the biggest trophy in Europe. So he has motivation, and I think his words were he wants to find his love for the game again.
Well, definitely a signing of intent, though, isn't it, Labro? Because it's not just Fournier who's coming. Olympiacos, BC, I've had quite the summer, quite the transfer window. Is that comparable, this transfer window that Olympiacos have had? I mean, the names that have come, the star quality that has come.
No, it's honestly last season for the basketball team, like, it hurts to say, but Kostas Loukas kind of destroyed us, like destroyed Olympiacos. He won the Euro League, won the Finals MVP, won the Greek League, and the club was pretty fucking embarrassed last season. And so the only way to answer it was to build a team that can go win the Euro League, and the owners have done that, and they've produced a fantastic team. Vezenkov, Fournier, Tyler Dorsey is going to be a nice piece off the bench. Alec Peters in a smaller role off the bench. You still have the big men. Vildoza, excited to see what he can do. It's a team with a lot. I think it's gonna take time for this team to gel together and to figure out the rotations, because there's so much talent and there's so many people who are going to want to be on the court at the same time. So it's really exciting. It's complicated from that point of view. It's always complicated in basketball to figure out rotations in your team, but there's so many.
It's a good issue. Time, didn't it, last season, for example?
And Panathinaikos last season, they had the thing is they had holes, big holes that I don't think were kind of tested in the Euro League. They didn't have a backup center last season, and because we left Moses Wright off the list, and then Mustafa Fall got injured. Am I remembering the timeline right? We could not exploit their weakness at the 5, and that basically lost us that playoff series, because we didn't have a center who could go at their weak interior defense. But anyway, this season you're hoping things are different. We've got a nice young mix of Greek talent, foreign talent. It's interesting. Guys who know the team, guys who are new. It's exciting. So I think that's all we can say. And I see the chat is exploding about football. That's all they want to talk about. So,
and basketball. And there's a bit of a debate going on because of what I said about basketball. But we've lost, if my maths are correct, we've lost 4 EuroLeague finals in a row. I'm pretty sure we would have tied Panathinaikos at 6 if we had won every single one of them by now, before their 7th EuroLeague title, that is. So it's been quite a few EuroLeague final losses. So how are we feeling about the future in that department now, that with that kind of player joining a series of other big names at Olympiacos now?
Good. I think the answer is good. I don't know. The thing is, basketball is a game of very small details. It's very close. It's especially the style that the EuroLeague is, with the Final Four knockout style. It's a bit sad that it all comes down to one knockout game each game, because if a player's injured, or if a player's not shooting right on one day, you lose out on the championship, which is the exciting part, but also the negative part, because the best team usually doesn't win in those situations. So it's super exciting, gives us the best chance, but because of the format of the competition, it's always a fucking roulette at the end of the season, and you have to deliver at the end. You got to be healthy. Things have to go your way. So it's exciting. I think I'm more excited to see the team play with so much talent. Home and away, this team should compete with any team across Europe. And also, Real Madrid lost some pieces. They're a year older. Yabusele went to the NBA. Rudy Fernandez, I think, retired.
Yeah.
So there's an opening. Both Greek teams are going to be very good this season. Like Panathinaikos and Olympiacos are going to be very good. You no longer have the dominant Russian teams in EuroLeague. So the Turkish teams may be a bit better. We're just going to have to wait and see. So it's exciting.
So Costa, another EuroLeague title on the horizon.
I mean, the pressure is definitely there to do it, but see, there's a comment that came in now from your friend Labra.
Carry on. Guys, my French, it's not very good. So
I've heard you speak French. Your French is more than fine, much better than mine.
Of course, let's not go that far, huh? Let's not go there.
Trust me, it's not good. I don't think you've even heard me speaking French, to be honest.
Trust me, Evan Fournier would block Thrilos International if he heard me speak French. So
Thrilos 7 International.
Thrilos 7. Exactly. So, but no, guys, I'm excited for the basketball more. I just love watching EuroLeague basketball, FIBA rules basketball. It's so much. I don't know about you guys. I really enjoyed watching the Olympics basketball. I know a lot of Americans also, if people follow NBA, listen to let's say Bill Simmons. He was loving basketball, analyzing the different teams, Canada, Australia. It's just a better form of basketball, in my opinion. I'm a huge NBA fan as well. So anyway, I'm excited to watch the players play. That's because every single night in the EuroLeague can be a great game to watch, and looking forward to that. So,
do you have anything to add in the whole world champion debate between the NBA and this American Olympian? Anything you want to? Your 2 cents about the whole idea of a world champion?
I think it would be great though if the champion of the EuroLeague played the NBA champion with FIBA rules internationally. I think it would be super great to watch. I think the NBA team for sure would win, probably 95%. But I think Panathinaikos, for example, if they had to play the Celtics, would probably get destroyed. But also, the rules are different. The NBA guys struggle to adapt. We saw it with the American players against Serbia. That was an insane American team, and they really struggled. Even the French gave them a game, so it's not improbable. So anyway, that's
then Steph Curry just took over.
And then Steph Curry, exactly, just knows how to play basketball. So that's international. So that's worldwide. Steph Curry can do it anywhere, anytime.
So a lot of people are sharing their 2 cents about basketball, but a lot more I see are sharing, are being quite vocal about the summer transfer window. Some of them are more confident than others. So guys, I mean, the summer transfer window, anything else about it? Well, I suppose he means the basketball transfer policy, or is it the football policy?
The football.
Yeah, I think clearly Indigo is talking about football. People are losing their minds, man. It's oh my God, we don't have a 10. Oh my God, nobody's wearing the number 7 shirt. And what the hell are we going to do? So it's kind of an unprecedented situation for Olympiacos, isn't it? It's we literally, when's the last time you remember we didn't have somebody that was wearing a number 7? And when is the last time you remember we had a squad where there was no that talismanic number 10? So people are kind of freaking out about that.
Are we still playing? Are we? I remember Labro said that actually after we learned that Fortounis had left, Olympiacos, Kostas Fortounis had left. And Labro said this feels like it's the end of the number 10 era at Olympiacos, just like it was at Real Madrid when they were done with the Mesut Özils, with the Iscos, with the James Rodriguez's. Olympiacos are playing a 4-3-3 pretty much now under José Luis Mendilibar with a high press. That is the MO right now. And we needed players to come in because the high press only works against bigger or opponents that are as good as you or better as you. But when it comes to the lesser ones who just, park the bus at the back, who just play full defensive football waiting for their opportunity, that doesn't really work. So do Olympiacos actually need a number 10 like Costas Fortounis or Sorry Dominguez, David Fuster, Fernando Bellucci, like we've had since 2004, really, when Rivaldo joined us?
Costa, you want to go or shall I?
No, go ahead.
Anyone?
I'll go. I'll talk about this because you
I mean, you
mentioned.
mentioned that. Yeah, you were
Yeah,
the first one who
I
said that.
think
Yeah.
people are really struggling at Olympiacos to, accept that it may be the end of this. Olympiacos, my whole life was 4-2-3-1, a star
Yeah.
player at the 10, and that's how we played. Like, I can't really remember it any other way. That's how I always remember the team. And it was
Yeah.
very simple. It was like 10, 6, 8, two wingers, and a striker. That's like how Olympiacos played. Always, always, always. And I think if you look around the world in football, you just don't see many teams play with a 10 anymore. Like the players like James Rodriguez, Fortunis, Chori Dominguez, you really don't see them in modern football that much anymore. That sort of player in the middle who floats, that creates. And you're seeing like this more versatile midfield and wingers who are asked to do more than they were traditionally asked to do. And from what I understand about our transfer strategy and how I'm trying to analyze it when I go through the squad is that the team seems to be set up when you look at the attacking talent in a way where you have two traditional wingers, you have Masuras and you have Velde, and then you have two more creative wingers who are meant to float, almost like how Fortunis and Podence played last season, where they are the more creative players. So you have Fortunis who is drifting off from the left wing, but to say that Costas Fortunis was playing left wing most for Olympiacos is not real. He was floating all around the pitch. And if you watched how we've played to start the season, you'll see that Gelson Martins is really not playing like a traditional winger. Like he's not on the byline. He's very much floating and involved in creativity. So you're asking, this sort of lineup is asking more out of that player. So this sort of left wing, free floating role, Gelson Martins, and also it's putting more responsibility on the more hybrid midfielder like Chiquinho. Like Chiquinho is not Fortunis, he's not a creator per se in the traditional sense, but like he's being asked to unlock teams with the final touch or final ball, press, etc., etc. So when you look at the roster, it's clear that management sat down and they've decided and they've analyzed that they are going to play football in a way where they are not going to use a traditional creative player that we are used to knowing. And I think a lot of fans are freaking out. And, I personally, I wanted another creative player in before the deadline. Like I wanted Willian and maybe one more because I think it would have really helped us, especially in the Greek league. But I think if you look at how we play and you analyze the roster, it makes a lot of sense. We have two of these creative players in Martins and Willian. We have two traditional wingers in Masuras, Velde. We have three strikers, three traditional style strikers in Kostulas, Yaramchuk, and Elkabi. And then you have the hybrid midfielders that we have down, and then you have the deeper midfielders. So the team really going into this final weekend for me needed one more creative player, maybe if that's what the manager wanted, and then a left back if the manager wasn't comfortable with Apostolopoulos. So that was kind of, Sunji, you have no idea about football. So that was my analysis, but clearly Sunji here thinks I have no idea. So maybe my analysis is very poor. So you guys can take over and tell me what you think.
No. I feel like
I think.
I feel like you're very spot on, Labro and Costa. The thing about Fortunis as well is that under Mendilibar, Fortunis didn't really play as a number 10. He was in the front three on the right hand side, and sometimes exchanged with Podence and Zelson Martins, if I remember correctly. Obviously, Martins couldn't play in Europe, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I honestly think if you go one for one, you see, comparing the European list from last season, we had on the creative approach, we had Fortunis, we had Podence, and we had Masuras, and now we have Gelson Martins, we have Velde, we have Masuras, and we have Willian. So that's kind of the opinion here. I think it's very logical when you think of it like that way. I don't know. That's my opinion.
I think the most cliche thing to say right now is that we'll see everything on the pitch. Yeah, that's the most cliche thing you can say, but that's the reality of football. The other thing is to say that last season we started the season with players like Pedence and Fortunis, and I'm not trying to sugarcoat things. Like, we all know their goal contributions last season. What was it? Something ridiculous, like 50 goal contributions between the two of them. And we don't know like where that's going to come from now. It could come from Gelson Martins and Velde. They've both started the season pretty well. Sergio Oliveira a couple of years ago scored more than 15 goals. I think that was his 2022 season. So he's a player that can score. We shared
penalty taker. That I wonder how many of those are penalties.
But he takes free kicks.
And we have someone for set pieces, guys. Who did we have before Oliveira for the set piece after Fortunis left?
Willian
and Fortunis' free kick taking and his set piece taking overall last season sucks pretty hard, to be honest. And if people don't like it, I don't care. So the thing that I wanted to say was last season we started with Fortunis and Pedence in our squad under Diego Martinez. But what really changed in January, it's Carmo's presence at the back and giving confidence to our midfielders and our attackers that we are okay. Like, we don't have to worry as much about what's going on behind us because we've got David Carmo, and David Carmo elevates Retsos as well. And I think that anyone that's played football, even an amateur level, will understand what I'm talking about in terms of just, you can't unleash your full potential from a creative perspective if you've got part of you that's focusing on what's going on behind you, or not confident or less confident. It counts when you're a centre back, when you look at your keeper behind you. It counts when you're a midfielder, when you've got your centre backs behind you. That's just how it is on a football pitch. And that's why when we had a conversation after the final about, okay, look at our roster and how many loanees we had and who can we bring back and who's the most important one to bring back, I said David Carmo. Mm-hmm. And we bought him back.
Bought him back.
Yeah, okay.
No, got him back.
I don't care how we did it. He's there. I don't get how he did it. Realistically speaking, is David Carmo a player that is going to play at Olympiacos for more than 2 years? No, because he's better than the Greek league, because he can play at a higher level. And we don't know what's going to happen next summer. We don't know what's going to happen next summer. Just like the fact is, David Carmo is an Olympiacos player this season.
You touched upon the loanee situation. You're absolutely right. So I had a bit of a look on our roster, on our current roster, that is. Do you guys want to guess how many players from our current roster have a contract that runs out in June?
Berryman. Let me bring up the depth.
I can tell you right now how many we got. We got 6 players whose contract is running out. Those are Rodine. That we're talking either loanees or contract that runs out. So we got Rodine, Carmo, who's on loan, Biancon, Stamenic, who's on loan, also from Nottingham Forest, Danny Garcia, and Willian, who has a 1-year contract. Do you guys remember how many players in this situation that were either on loan or who had a contract that was running out at the end of the season? How many of those we had by the end of January? Do you remember the number? Because I do.
Too many.
Mate, 18. That's an entire match day squad. We were looking at the possibility of doing preseason training without all of our goalkeepers, without any goalkeeper, and without any strikers. That's how bad it was by the end of January. Now we got 6 players who are out of contract. And out of all of them, I mean, if you look at the list right now, at this hour, at this day, if I had to pick names that I want to renew, those are Rodine and Carmo. I don't know how Willian are going to do. I don't know how Danny Garcia is going to do. I don't know how Stamenic is going to do yet. I am very confident about Willian, but based on what I know right now, I'd say only Rodine and Carmo, which Carmo is obviously not going to stay. But so Rodine, I guess, is my answer. It wasn't that simple by the end of January, folks.
And if you look at the team, Thank you for bringing this up, Costa. I think the chat who are going off, I think we would agree that we're stronger in the back now and at goalkeeper and at striker. Like, we got rid of Navarro, who was, not a great player. He was a bit of we needed him in January. We've brought in Yaramchuk, who's already looked quite good off of the right away. We have Kostulas, who's a strong youngster. We have Zolakis entering the second season, full year as a starter. We also have Ortega, who I know we've criticized here, the fans have criticized, but he's also entering his second year in European football, has had a full preseason. He looks quite good at moments, the first 3 games. Like it or not, Ortega is the starting left back here, and that's the situation. Last year, we had Omar Richards, who could not stay fit. He could not play. And backing up Rodinei this season, instead of Kini, we have Costinha, who was statistically the best full right back in whole of Portugal. So just looking on the face of things, our backline is stronger. The goalkeeper position, Tolakis has had another year. He's had another preseason. The hope is that these people get better. Heze is on year 2. Ortega is on year 2. These are young players. We're hoping they're going to improve. Tsolakis is a young player. He's been training with the team, the goalkeeping coach. So there's hope there that some of the players who were here last year for their first year also take a step up. I also think it's such a huge – this team, Heze means so much to this team. Keeping him in Greece for year 2 is huge.
And you know what? Sorry to interrupt you, Labros, but we just have the squad for Europa League. We have the squad for Europa League from Olympiacos. So I'm reading the list out. Goalkeepers: Paschalakis, Zolakis, Anagностopoulos. No surprise there, obviously.
It's pretty much what I put up on screen. Yeah.
Okay, but go ahead, Costa.
Okay, I'm gonna read it though, just because I got it. Ortega, Biancon, Pirola, Carmo, Rodinei, Retsos, Apostolopoulos, Doi in defense. Midfielders: Stamenits, Zelson, Velde, Garcia, Tsikinio, Eze, Oliveira. Oliveira just joined us. And up front, El Kabi, Yaremchuk, Masura. So this is the official squad for the Europa League.
Costinha is in the squad. Well, did I miss that? Costinha is in the squad.
Yeah.
He's in, right? I don't know.
I think, Costa, you didn't read out the B list players like Mouzakitis,
No, I didn't. In the B list, we got Exarchos, Koutsidis, Bakoulas, Papakanelos, Mouzakitis, Kostoulas. What I'm reading right now does not include Costinha, guys.
Costinha not in the European list.
Wait a minute. I'm reading from Sport 24, though, to be honest, guys. Let me...
That would be...
That can't be right.
That's from Sport 24, yeah.
Okay.
No, he's in. I'm looking at it now.
What are you reading?
Sport FM.
Sport FM, okay.
We didn't have any problems, guys. We've got one foreigner. We could have still submitted one more foreigner. There was no issues with the list this year because we've got Greek players and we've got lots of youngsters from our academy. We didn't have any issues. There should be no issues with our squad. There are no issues with our squad.
Yeah.
So and for people who are moaning right now, let's not forget what happened 2 years ago. When how many players did we have that were out of the list because we got them after the deadline? Bakambu wasn't there. James wasn't there, and I think there were a couple of others. Samaseku wasn't there either.
No,
so, yeah, guys.
People are disappointed. People are disappointed because I think there's always like this crazy expectations that are just magnified so much via social media, and anybody who's anyone can just go on there and write something and say, oh, we're going to sign Neymar or Dybala, or like these crazy rumors, like where do these even come from that we're going to sign Dybala? How much is he earning in a year? Like 6 million or something crazy, but just like the expectations.
And the money he turned down.
Man, the
From Saudi
expectations
Arabia.
are blown out of proportion, and like I get that it's our 100 years, and we wanna remain on the level that we were in June after winning the European trophy, the Conference League. I get that, and I think all Olympiacos fans want to compete and finish in the top 8 of the Europa League, and another crazy dream, and go to Bilbao because it's Valverde's home and it could be meant to be again. But guys, the only guarantee in this squad this year for the football team is the manager. Manager wanted a small squad of 24 players. We've
It's
ended
not
up
even a
with
small squad. It's a regular sized.
it's like in the end, it's not 24. It's like 25 players plus the keepers. I mean, again, looking at the squad, one of the first things we've been discussing in the summer is that the average age has gone down quite dramatically, to the point where we were saying, we lost the experienced heads like Jovetic, even Fortunis, like was a vet captain. He's gone. Ibora, somebody that in January we were saying, get him on the first flight, I'll take him to the airport, some fans were saying, and then by the end of it we were just absolutely devastated to lose him. And so we reduced the age, the average age of the squad, bringing in players like Stamenic, bringing up in the end, what was it, five youth players that went to summer camp. And then basically this last week you've brought in players like Willian and Sergio Oliveira, 36 and 32 respectively, and you've brought again some experience back into the squad, and overall you look at our squad and you think that's a very nice balance of players that are at a good age, around kind of mid-20s, and then a couple of experienced players like Willian and Sergio Oliveira, Danny Garcia, and then youth. Like there are players who the big gap. I've said positive things, but again, I think the big gap for me is at wing back. If Ortega gets injured, then you've got two choices: Castilla as a left back, or you play Apostolopoulos. And then at right back, I think, worst comes to worst, knock on wood, Rodinei and Castilla get injured, or you've got a big problem there. You could play Retsos, you could play Biancon.
Biancon has played right back traditionally as a youngster. So
and the Retsos at the back. But yeah, traditionally, you're right about that, Labro.
Yeah. So that's where I felt if we were going to make a signing, maybe something at left back. It didn't. To a lot of people are saying Apostolopoulos wasn't in the squad for the Lamia game, and that means that the manager doesn't trust him. But I think I mentioned it on the last pod. I had this feeling that Castilla is there, and Castilla could, if needed, play as a left back.
And we played last season without a left back. Like, let's be Omar Richards. Like, if he played more than 500 minutes last season, I would be surprised. Keeney was playing left back and backup right back. He was kind of like the Bruno Gaspar role from years ago, where he goes both sides. Is it ideal? Fuck no, it's not. But
we eliminated Aston Villa without a left back, guys.
No, but my main point that I'm trying to say here is, like, you don't sometimes, who knows? Who really knows what the thinking was between not bringing back a proper left back? We don't have all the information, so we can't swear at Darko Kovacevic. What if he was told by Mendilibar, I don't want a left back? Or what if, there's so many scenarios about the left, because the thing about the left back position is we weren't linked to any left back all summer. Like, I can't remember a left back being linked seriously by the media. I just don't see it. So we also do have some left backs out on loan.
There's also this guy.
We have Ramon. We have Ramon out on loan. We have Dorian Leidner out on loan. But I'm just thinking that this overall conversation, and this is going to go a bit philosophical, but Vangelis Marinakis kind of, with this transfer window, almost buried himself with the narratives he's created about BAMs and star players. Like, this club has been so accustomed, like the fans are accustomed to signing big names and BAMs and
Yeah.
high salary players, that this summer, when like a more logical football approach was taken, where they're trying to save money, they're trying to make smart decisions, they're trying to bring youngsters up, you have the fans, like you can see it in this comment section, openly revolting, like pissed off because those big sugar highs of a player didn't come in this window. And what the
Who did
fuck
they
have
expect?
but
Who did
let
they
me go
expect?
finish, Costa. Like what have those big signings done for us? A lot of times, like nothing much. You know, the most important players of the turnaround last season, you know, Podence and Fortunis were important, but they were there the whole fucking time. When we sucked, when we lost 5-0 at Freiburg, the most important players that turned around the club were Tsolakis, were Carmo, were Ibora coming into the side,
Yeah.
and fucking El Kabi. Like Podence and Fortunis were great, but what happened in the fucking final? We can even go back to the final. Was it Podence or Fortunis who won the final? It literally was
Nope,
not. It
not
was
at all.
not. So we built this narrative as a club. Well, this is not. This is management's fault. This is their media. This is the PR that they've done for years. That like you need to sign these big name BAMs in order to do something in European football. But it seems like they're taking a more logical approach where they have very good youngsters. We won the Champions League of under 19, and they're saying like, okay, instead of signing Andre Horta, like maybe we can do it with Bakulas and Musakitis, champions of Europe. Maybe we can be a bit more flexible. It is painful that Fortunis is gone. It is painful that Podence is gone. Like, would they have made the team better? Yes. Yes. But signing a BAM just to sign a BAM, like Unahi, people are mad that he went to Panathinaikos and we didn't sign him. What? Why? I don't understand. Like, and Hakim Ziyech as well, who's almost like a finished footballer at this point. People are mad we didn't sign him. Yes, it's disappointing that we didn't bring a very good creative player in. Willian, I think, will surprise a lot of people. But yes, but the club did go for it, and they didn't get it. But they didn't panic buy either, and they didn't bring in a finished footballer like they did with Marcelo. How many fans were so happy and excited and went to the stadium for fucking Marcelo? And 2
Yep.
months later, all of you were whining, man, like whining, crying. And then, so the BAM and the exciting signings, if you actually analyze the roster position by position, there are some holes where I'm sure they wanted to make a few more signings, where they wanted to finish it, but they couldn't get that profile in. I'm sure of it. But if you go position by position, we're in a good position, guys. Like everyone just needs to calm down. Everyone needs to calm down a little bit. Like we're 3 for 3 in the league. Everything's okay. We have some core elements of the team still here. There's no need to freak out. Like, is it
The same
disappointing?
manager.
The same manager.
Who
And
could have left? Yeah.
you know, like we're seeing now, like how are the BAMs working for fucking Ike, man? Eric Lamela and bullshit. Like
We're the
so
most stable
great.
club.
We're the
We're
most stable club. And you
Yeah.
know what? Like, I am okay. I'm okay with Bakulas playing. I'm okay with Musakitis playing instead of Andre Horta. To be honest,
Yeah, but
Andre Horta was great last season. Like, he was great. But he's not a fucking insane footballer. Like, we've hyped some of these guys up a bit too much here. Jovetic as well, guys. Like, Jovetic was great for Olympiacos last season. But he can't even get a contract in India, man. Like, we brought in Yaramchuk, who is an international playing at the Euros for Ukraine. That is a massive upgrade at our backup striker position. Like, I don't think people realize, like, Yaramchuk is a very good addition to the striker room. Like, there's a lot of positive things, and the complaining, I know it's disappointing. Like, I know some of these things are disappointing, but, like, a lot of these players deserve support, especially the young players. You know, like, they're going to make mistakes. But some of these guys are super exciting, guys. Super exciting. We still have the core of the midfield as well. We have Heze. We have Chiquinho. We have the striker. We have El Kabi, who won us. El Kabi won us the European title, like, with his goals.
Top scorer in the conference, of course. But to be fair, like Andre Horta's replacement is here, basically. Of course, we want to see the kids getting the opportunity. Of course, we want the kids to be supported. Of course, we want to see the kids getting more experience. But let's not kid ourselves. It's not like back in 2009 where Sokratis Kokalis refused to bring a replacement for Predrag Djordjevic, one of the greatest legends, and he went out and said, "Oh, we got Soiledis who can play in the left wing." Sergio Oliveira is here. Let's not forget, that's why they brought Sergio Oliveira. Very impressive performances at Porto, very impressive performances for PAOK. A very experienced player, mean free kicks, which is something we didn't have since Fortunis left. Well, of course, Costa, you expressed your opinion, and I respect it completely. But after Fortunis, there was no one for the free kicks. Basically, we had Chiquinho and Velde taking corner kicks, and I think Chiquinho was taking the free kicks. Come on.
Muzakitis was taking free kicks in the friendlies.
But what I want to say also is something. So Alex here writes, like, we never cared about big name signings. Bullshit. Like, I've seen the fan base of this club. People love the big name signings. We only want signings that make sense. So I want to take this from a logical perspective, like we're doing here. So what were the signings, that the club could have made, man? Like, Podense was just not possible, guys. It was too expensive. It was too much money. Like, Ari will come on the podcast and tell you that because of financial fair play and all of the contracts that we're paying, guys, we're still probably paying Marcelo. We're still probably paying James. We're paying all the coaches that we fired, Corberan, Pedro Martins, because of these fucking disaster signings that we had to cut and get off the team. Abu Bakar Kamara, we paid 5 million euros for a few years ago. Like, that doesn't all disappear. That impacts your financial fair play and how many players and how much money you can do. So put in the comments, guys, like, who did you want? Honestly, guys, like, what are the signings except for Fortunis and Podense? Because we understand that Fortunis doesn't have any cartilage in his knees. He saw a payday in Saudi Arabia and he went. Like, I also think he went because he may have known that, like, his body was at its limits playing. It's not a mistake that Fortunis completely fell off the map in the second half of the season, man. Like, it was difficult.
6 million for 2 years, guys.
30. He's on the wrong side of 30. He's done both ACLs. He's getting 6 million.
31, 32 he is. He's not that old.
Yeah, but he has no ligaments in his knees, man. Like, if you're going to give me 6 million for 2 years and I know my knees are fucked, I'm going to go to Saudi Arabia too.
I think
So the plan, the signings people wanted, like, I want to know what people wanted. I think people wanted Andre Horta. I think that makes sense. Like, people wanted, instead of Sergio Oliveira, they wanted Andre Horta. But then who else?
A couple that they wanted.
Joao Mario. Joao Mario, really, guys? If we signed Joao Mario, would the fan base have been like, Marinakis had a great summer, like, thank God he's here? No, man. No. Whatever happened post Horta, post Fortunis, post Podense, people would have fucking complained, man. The fact that people can say, oh no, like, if we did this and that, we would have been good. People still would have complained. People would have complained.
There's no plan B for Fortunis, Podense, and Horta. Well, the thing is, the way I see it, we just discussed the whole number 10 situation, but, like, if I can put some names for each name right there, obviously, when you sign a player, it is a gamble, it is an investment. And I'm going to get into depth about one of the names who, in my opinion, has been misunderstood terribly, and that's none other than Willian. So they ought to have a plan B for Fortunis, Podense, and Horta. Well, the thing is, like, okay, Fortunis, you got Willian who came on. Podense, you got Velde who came on. Horta, you got Oliveira who came on. Okay, maybe Southpaw and everyone else might think that those names are, garbage. But okay, who did you expect to come, though? I mean, instead of them, realistically? Because you need to bring some good players as well, and for realistic money, because the money right now is insane, you guys, especially with FFP going on.
And Costa, you're exactly right. And the thing with this is one thing where I'll defend the club, like, and for the longtime followers, the new ones, they're going to say, like, oh, this guy is a mouthpiece for Olympiacos. But the money that the Saudis can offer, none of Europe
Mm-hmm.
can match. No one in Europe can match. Like Olympiacos is not going to be able to match the Saudi offers, guys. Like, I know it's super frustrating, but Real Madrid is also dealing with the same shit. You guys, like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know, it's not just Olympiacos. It's like half of Europe is dealing this issue where they have good players, and then the Saudis come and can offer amounts that supersede what Olympiacos can offer with FFP and with other financial constraints for as a Greek football club. And that's just a fact of the matter. And it's the sooner people realize that we cannot compete with the salaries and money from Saudi Arabia, because they're literally just being handed money for free from the government, and they say, like, you can lose the money. There's no restrictions. There's nothing. We can't compete with that, guys. Like, Podence wrote in his Instagram post the same thing. He was like, this money's too good. Like, I don't expect anyone to deal with it. Like, it's disappointing, but like, this is the football era we live in. It's just disappointing. Like, and I guess we're just trying to be the translator here of the bad news, but you can't match these Saudi offers, man. Like, teams in Europe, like the best teams in Champions League, struggle to match these fucking Saudi offers. Like, how are we going to do it? Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is, right now, I mean, we're almost an hour in. So if you haven't done so, please do like and subscribe. And to everyone who's new to our podcast, to everyone who just subscribed just recently, let me tell you, like, right now, you're not looking at a bunch of Vangelis Marinakis super fans here. What you're looking at here is a podcast that only 12 months ago, there was a lot of criticism, a lot of productive criticism. I'm gonna dare say, regarding the club's handling of transfers. There was the exact same thing 2 years ago when we saw 2 years worth of signings coming in just one
Costa,
summer at Olympiacos.
I'll go back, and Costa with the C will remember this. I wrote an article, I think it was January 2022, when I said Pedro Martins, it's time. You're finished. Essentially, is what I wrote, and that Olympiacos transfer strategy is shit. And like, the amount I got, like, death threats. I got death threats from people like, "You're a fucking moron. You're an idiot." And then 6 months later, we had Maccabi Haifa. You know, so I'm happy to criticize the club. Like, I literally get shit on for being very negative and being the bad person here, and for years. And so it's really weird that I'm like in the position now where people are like, "Oh, Labros is the guy who's boosting the club up." So it's fun. It's nice to be in this position. This is usually Costa with a C's position, to be positive. So I don't know, guys. That's you. That's your job. So seriously, guys, like, it's not ideal. I wanted 2 more players. I wanted a left back, and I wanted 1 more creative player. But it's not the end of the world. I'm happy with the rest of the business, to be honest. So
it's like,
that's my opinion.
Also, there's a lot of this going around from what Yanis Spinos is saying. It's frustrating seeing Ike and Bao make better signings. Define better signing. They spent a shitload of money, like, not even like, okay, Bauk lost Meite. Okay, they bought in Camara. Their defense is in tatters. Kouliarakis for me wasn't even a top defender. He's got a good body and a fantastic left foot. It doesn't mean he's a top defender. He can become a top defender playing in a better league now. We'll see. Good luck to the lad. But honestly, like, Ike and Bao making better signings than us. Because who did they sign? They signed Pelistri. Okay, hasn't played more than 200 games in his career.
Oh,
He's
yes.
22,
Oh,
20,
yes.
whatever. Tete, who's a Galatasaray reject. Okay, you could say the same about Sergio Oliveira. Really, they made better signings. I don't really, I think the Unahi thing pissed people off in the last couple of days, because I talked about Unahi with Marshall a lot this past week. We were doing these daily transfer specials, and I was really asking Marshall. I was like, Marshall, can you explain to me like who this player is? Like, why are people hyped about him? And he recalled what Luis Enrique said in the last World Cup when Spain played Morocco, and Enrique said in the press conference, "Who's that guy that plays number 8 from Morocco? Who is he?" And that's about it. Like, he hasn't really played much for Marseille the last season since the World Cup. So, he's on loan with an 11 million clause. And just, I think that people need to also just think that there's been a lot of, the way we've done things the last 3 seasons has, we're still paying for it. Literally, like we are still paying for transfers like James Rodriguez, Marcelo De La Fuente, Ola Solbakken, like failed transfer moves. We're still paying for them out of pocket, probably. And what I like, and I think people don't see, is that long term, we've eradicated some of those problems going into next season. Because you said, Costa, we're going to go into next season and we're essentially going to have, what is it?
6.
Potentially 6 players that are like either leaving, going back to their clubs from where we've loaned them from, we're out of contract. I think Rodinei will sign a new contract, by the way. So I said, let's say 5. We'll see. Like we don't have as many issues next season. We've got players under contract. Okay, Oliveira is going to be 33. The big question is going to be next season: does Heze stay? If Gelson Martins has had a great season, like how many clubs are going to come knocking? You're going to have different issues, but by and large, like you're also looking at this season as one where you want your youth players to play 10 to 15 games. They're going to have a year's experience under their belt, and you're generally just going to be in a much better situation. Like we made 10 transfers this season. For Olympiacos, that's not a lot. It's normally like 15 plus like transfers that we make. We made 10, and they were all as targeted as possible. Yes, we didn't get our primary targets. Yes, we possibly could have found a better player than Sergio Oliveira. But even that move for Oliveira, we were missing a dead ball specialist. We were missing somebody that could like play a good corner kick into the box, for God's sake. Like we're not good at scoring goals from set pieces. Scoring goals from set pieces is so important. Like in the Greek league, I remember under Pedro Martins and Marco Silva, like how important it was to scoring goals from set pieces, unlocking defenses like that. And that's not his only value. I know that there's been criticism by a lot of Turkish fans that I spoke to at Galatasaray. Friends of mine in Turkey said that the guy was an absolute leech in Turkey. He was signed as a star player from Roma, earning 2.7 million a season plus bonuses, taking it more to 3 million. And they were desperate to get rid of him at the end. He wasn't playing the last season. He lost his place to two Turkish players, and they wanted to get rid of him. But my friends that I spoke to in Turkey, they called him a leech. So, okay, now he's coming back here. He probably got his compensation from his contract in Turkey, signed a contract close to 1 million. And you hope that, he focuses on football. And also about Oliveira, there's a lot of Portuguese players in our team. And I think that will help him. Feel, like he's in a good place, good environment. And guys, Galatasaray is a fucking funeral club, man. Like, look at the play. We talk about, they signed better players. Galatasaray got knocked out of the Champions League playoffs by young boys with Icardi, Ziyech, Batshuayi, all the big names that they have. So it's not about the big names. It's about how everything falls into place, how the team
about
gels.
the professional as well. Like freaking Willian, everything. You look at the guy, like he's bionic. He's committed to the craft. He loves football. He's like Valbuena-esque in that way. Like he's fit. He loves football. He loves playing. Dani Garcia, as little as we've seen about him, everything you'll hear is that he's very professional. He's aggressive. He trains hard. He works hard. David Carmo as well. Like, we're building, like, there's a good squad. There's a good locker room. You have Rodinei, who brings energy and excitement. You have Pascalakis as a backup goalkeeper, who's also, there for the dressing room. I'm just like, there's a lot of positives, and there's a lot of things where it's like, oh, what about Ike? And fucking Ike lost to FC Noah, man. Like, are you fucking kidding me? And you guys are like, but Ike had a great summer. You can't play Haji Safi at left back and Lazarus Rota at right back. It's criminal, man. It's criminal. And then you lose to FC Noah. And then Panathinaikos with their star players, like, barely drawing against Kalithea, barely getting out with a draw against fucking Levadiakos. And people are telling us about, like, how good they are and whatever because they signed bigger names. Like, the name does not fucking matter. Like, the name and how exciting and, oh, it's 100 years. Like, we need good names for 100 years. Like, we also want the club to be around for another 100 years. And if you don't follow FFP, and if you fucking bankrupt the club, like Panathinaikos has done, like I have literally done, what are we talking about, man? Like, you reach 100 years, you want there to be another 100 years without going bankrupt as well. So it's time for new players to step up. It's time for new legends to be born, and it's uncomfortable. We have a great manager. We still have a great goal scorer. We have one of the best defenders I've seen play at Olympiacos in years, in David Carmo.
Since Melberg.
So, like, I don't know what the fuck we're talking about, with the complaining and the big signings. Like, grow up, man. Like, you're not 13 anymore. And fucking Marcelo and James Rodriguez aren't coming, like, to save you. It's time to grow up and, like, realize this is modern football, man. Like, this isn't 2011 anymore, man. Like, we won a European championship last season, making 4 to 5 signings in January, man. Like, none of you knew who Andre Horta was or David Carmo was in fucking December of last year. And now we're crying like crazy that Andre Horta is not here. Like, it's there for new players to be born and new players to make their name. You know what?
Well,
it's time for new Potenses. It's time for new Fortunices. Like, this is how football works. It's time to wake up and join the real world, man, because that's just how football works these days. Like, that's it. And I'm sorry to break your bubble that you live in, but, like, that's simply how things work. So this is our reality, and I'm sorry to say.
I just want to clarify something about Carmo. I did make that bet that if Carmo came back, I would make Paco. I will give Paco my position as co-host. But I did clarify it needed to be a permanent signing, no loan, no shifty. No, we did. We made that deal, and I said loans don't count. It needs to be a permanent deal. So it's a loan. He's going to be Murillo's replacement. Cry about it. But there is a name I want to talk about. We did talk about big names not matter. The big names don't matter. Olympiacos, well, they did get a big name actually in Willian. Of course, everybody is angry about it because he's 36 years old. We're hearing the exact same things we were hearing before Ibora joined us, before Rivaldo joined us, before Cambiaso joined us, before Ibagasa joined us. I can come up with a lot of other names if I think about this. So, okay. So Willian, his career speaks for itself. In my opinion, one of the greatest Chelsea players of all time. Certainly one of the best Brazilian players to ever compete in the Premier League. He is 36 years old. That is advanced for football. But let's think about what he did in the last 2 seasons. He was at Fulham, a very demanding English club. He joined them in the championship shortly after their relegation to the second division, and he was one of the main reasons that helped Fulham return to the Premier League in just 1 year. One of the main reasons behind their promotion. You might tell me, it's the championship. There's Greek people who actually believe that the championship is below the Greek Super League. There's actually people who believe that and vote. What did he do last season then for Fulham at age 35? Well, In the first half, he was one of the main reasons that helped Fulham steer clear from the relegation zone, him and Joao Palinha. And in the second half, when they finally got a center forward, actually, they already had Rodrigo Muniz, but he was AWOL in the first half of the season. It was the second half of the season that he took off. That's when it became easier for Fulham. And Willian was one of the main reasons that helped them finish in the top 10. When the season ended, his contract ran out. Marco Silva, according to my Sun colleagues, was desperate to keep Willian at Fulham. And Fulham offered him a 1-year contract. He didn't take it. How did he do? How did Willian do? Well, let me tell you. There's 38 Premier League matches per year. Willian competed in 31 of them. Out of 31 Premier League appearances at age 35, he started 24 matches at age 35 in the Premier League. Not Liga, not the Croatian division, not the Israeli division, not even the Saudi Pro League, Premier League. And now we have him. He's with us now. A lot of people will think to me, okay, since he's such a great player, why did he flop at Arsenal so bad? Great question. Why did he flop at Arsenal? When Willian joined Arsenal, it was 2020, so it was the 2020-2021 season. Costa Labro, do you remember where Arsenal finished in the 2020-2021 season?
5th.
Too high. You're way too high.
8th. Was it bad?
Yes, exactly. That's out of Europe. That's how good things were at Arsenal. And that was with Arteta and Edu. That was Edu's first year at Arsenal. Without Edu, Arteta wouldn't have done anything he's done right now, by the way. So they got Willian, who had a good start, by the way. He produced 2 assists on his debut. But then it was a situation at Arsenal where Willian was not happy. Edu gave an interview and he said, here's why Willian didn't work, because he didn't feel 100% comfortable. Willian said, I was not happy at Arsenal. Here's another thing about Willian. Just like every footballer, you know, when they say, I don't care about the money, of course the money matters. But for Willian, it's not everything. To Willian, it's very important to be happy. To Willian, it's very important to be comfortable, to like the project, to be behind the project. He's a player that needs support. He needs to see something from everyone else. He needs to see support, solidarity, time, patience. If Willian comes to Olympiacos and everybody expects him to be like Rivaldo in just 2 games, it's not going to work. But if you give him the support that he needs, just like Carmo is also a player that only works based on support and patience and a good project. He's going to do wonders for you. So to close that up, if we see the Willian from Fulham, if we have the Willian from Fulham, then we're in for a huge treat at Olympiacos. If we get the Willian from Arsenal, yes, of course, it's going to be a huge problem for us. If we get the Willian from Chelsea, which I doubt, then we're going to see something insane going on at Olympiacos. In conclusion, of course, this could age as well as rotten milk in the Sahara Desert. I understand that. But facts are facts. And we presented the facts to you. And I feel a lot more comfortable going on record saying all those things about Willian, rather than saying he's a flop waiting to happen. Marcelo, James Rodriguez, Sime Vrsaljko, the facts showed they were finished footballers. There was no facts showing that he's going to be a success at Olympiacos. Willian, 31 Premier League appearances, 24 of them as a starter at age 35.
I think Costa and like some of the fans are saying like we didn't want the big names. Like I'm seeing your guys comment, like Thanos is saying we're not complaining. The fact is we had bad planning. We didn't get a backup in left back for Ortega, not a real 10, etc., etc. Guys, the team needed to move on like 30 footballers because of the disaster seasons we've had. And they needed to bring in new footballers. So at the start of the window, we replaced Iborra, we brought Stamenic, we brought Garcia. You know, Fortunis left quite early, if we think about it. It was like early July, and we immediately went and we signed Velte. And then the Podense one, we all knew it was going to come down to the end. We weren't going to pay 10 million pounds. We were going to wait for Wolves to come back lower. And when they did, the Saudis came and they offered him a dream contract. And the club immediately moved to plan B and brought in Willian. So I don't see the element of the lack of planning here. Like, I know people are upset that there's no backup left back, but do you guys really think that the club just sat there and was like, if they really wanted a left back, if Mendilibar really wanted a left back, a backup left back, do you guys honestly think they would have not signed anyone? They would have just let it go. Like, guys, there's no logic in that. There needs to be another explanation. I'd love for a reporter in Athens to go ask Mendilibar what he thinks of the left back position, because from all sense of purposes, from the way I'm looking at it logically, like if I'm Mendilibar in June, I know I only have Ortega at left back. I have Costinha at right back covering for Rodinei. I would have asked for a left back, like if I really wanted one, if I didn't believe in Apostolopoulos. So this has not been communicated well by like the club or Mendilibar. It's more like the fans looking at the roster and being like, we need a left back. Clearly, and this is not me saying it, it's logical. The club didn't want a left back. You guys really think Olympiacos would struggle to sign a left back if they had wanted a left back? There were so many left backs on the market. Like clearly the manager who everyone loves, rates Ortega. You may not rate Ortega. You may think he's not enough at left back. You may want Apostolopoulos to be replaced. Guys, I think the only logic here is that the manager is happy with what we have at left back. Like if I was Mendilibar, I would have signed a left back. So I agree with you guys on that. But logically viewing it, it appears that he did not want a left back. He was happy with it. Like, so can we not complain about the left back situation and swear at the club? Because it's very clearly a management decision was taken. And it was probably by Mendilibar, the decision. So we're talking about the replacements of what? Podense and Horta, who came last minute. That's how transfers work, man. Like all summer, they were working Podense and probably Horta until Carlos Carvajal came. And they were working to get the best deal, get them in, and get it done. Because there's extreme pressure on FFP. Because we are not very compliant with FFP because of all the shitty signings we've made in the past 3 years. So they were trying to balance it. And what happened is they didn't get through the door. And they moved for Willian and Oliveira.
Both free transfers.
Both free transfers, man. Because we cannot. I'm going to have Ari come on this podcast again and walk through the numbers to you guys. We've paid too much in contracts. We've paid too much in transfer fees. We cannot buy players like up to a certain level because of the breaches in financial fair play that we've basically done the past few seasons.
And it's not like the money we spent wasn't on players that we like. Like Yaremchuk is a player that played at the Euro for Ukraine. Velde is a 24-year-old coming out of the Polish league with good numbers and, started pretty much on fire, definitely in the friendlies, got a goal against Galicia, looks lively in general. So we've spent money on him. We spent money on Yaremchuk. We spent money on the captain of the Italian under-21s who's looked pretty good, and he's no Carmo. He looks like a very, very competent defender that could turn into something and, bring cash back to the club and profit. Who else did we spend money on this summer?
Costinha was in theory.
Costinha was 2.5 million in January. Thank you. Man, like we spent more than 10 million. We spent more than 10 million in fees this summer.
And Aris is saying if the club's actions don't scream at you that there was no plan whatsoever, we can't convince you, obviously. Was there no plan to sign Velde, Pirola, Stamanic, Garcia, all these players? You think all of this, like, he doesn't get, and then Alex says doesn't get that we're pissed off about our lack of professionalism in transfer planning. Velde was a very professional transfer. Garcia as well. A lot of these transfers make sense, but you're ignoring it for those 3 players you wanted, guys. You wanted Horta. We all wanted Horta. We all wanted Fortunis back. We all wanted Podense. And you're acting because we didn't do those 3 things, that everything else was shit. When you go back and you actually look at the transfer strategy from the start of the summer, except for those 3 cases, it was quite successful. And
It was
Go
clear that those are players that you wanted to bring back. It's just a matter of bringing the cost down. We didn't spend like, you look at the amount of money that we spent. The most we spent was on Velde. I think it was 4 million, and all the other transfers were 3.5. I think Pirola was 3.5. Yaremchuk was 3.5 with bonuses. We weren't. It was very clear that we were never going to pay 10 million for Podence. It was clear that we were never going to pay 6 million option for Andre Horta. Some rumors been going around the last few days that in the end it was 2.5 million. But guys, Labro, you said it earlier. As soon as Carlos Carvajal took over Braga, it finished. He started the last 2 games. He's been very good for Braga. He's not gonna give him to us. I don't know where this 2.5 million came from, but you have a plan. It doesn't work, and the plan was to take it into August when prices go down. It was very clear we weren't going to pay that kind of money, like the 6 million, the 10 million, because if we did, then we wouldn't be able to sign a Yaremchuk. If we did, we wouldn't be able to put. I don't know. I'm thinking out loud. We've paid El Kabi a big contract. Like there's a budget.
Velde,
guys.
man, Velde was a very good signing. Like
There's a
Velde,
budget.
when you spend money, like Velde is one that you can sell, and then we can do to buy more players, guys. Like, and I know people are saying like this is the 100 years we wanted to do this. Like we wanted this. Like 2 of the guys you wanted got a boatload of money from Saudi Arabia that we can't compete with.
Mm-hmm.
And we tried until the end, and we just couldn't get it through. And like, this is the real world. No one gives a shit. Like football doesn't give a shit if it's 100 years or whatever. Like it's exciting. We're excited. It's going to be a great season. Financial fair play doesn't care about 100 years. Financial spreadsheets don't care about 100 years. And unfortunately for football teams in Europe, that's the reality they have to live with. And we're dealing with the consequences from bad decisions for the past 3 years. Bad decisions for the past 3 years that are restricting the club's movement and how much we can spend. And like, I'm sorry, guys. That's just the reality. And I'm sorry like that you guys are upset, but yeah.
Can I just speak to this point? I think it's an
Go ahead,
important
Costa.
point.
Yeah.
I've talked about this a lot as well. Like Andre Horta coming off the bench and changing the rhythm of the game like he did in the final. It was, there's something about him, like the metronome type player that's got the long hair and like carries the ball and can play a good pass. But guys, like honestly, I want to say something about Willian as well. I've said, I won't say a lot. I've said a lot the last week. Something funny for the fans. Everybody went to Marcelo's welcome, and people were wearing, the big pom-pom hair and the afan, as we say in Greek. It didn't work with him, but I'm pretty sure it's going to work with Willian, and I think Olympiacos fans are going to like him, man. He's the phrase I've been using a lot is model professional. The guy's 36 years old and Fortunis is 32. I can tell you now, even without a preseason, Willian's fitter than Fortunis. He's never had serious injuries in his career. The guy's an absolute animal. He's 36, but he's biologically about 32, probably. You're gonna like him. He's a player that will bring energy to the team. He can penetrate. He can shoot from outside the box. He can. I mean, for God's sake, he's a Brazilian player. Not crazy flair, but he's a European Brazilian player. That's why he's played in Europe for so long. That's why he played in the Premier League for so many years. Just don't like. Minta eso pedonotola. It's not the words aren't coming to me in English now, but like forget about the age, guys. Like we should have learned that lesson by now, for God's sake. Like particularly with Iborra, it's such a recent example. So I think he's a player that you can bring off the bench, and if he's not coming off the bench, then you've got Velde, somebody that you can bring on. Like, let's presume that Gelson Martins is really our number one like threat on the wing. Willian can play on the wing in some games. He can play in the 10. You can see formations when we've got Willian at the 10, Velde and Gelson on the wings. So there are still like players like that can come off the bench. Can't play 3 wingers, okay? Yes, Gelson Martins being injury prone is a big question mark, just the same as it was in his last season after having two ACLs, Rezos. So you never know, guys. We can't predict these things. And Yaremchuk as well. I see people talking about
Huge,
Jovetic.
man. Our backup striker last year was fucking Navarro, man. Guys, Yaremchuk is a player who plays the Euros, who was played for big teams. Like, he's been out of form the past 2 years, but like, he's so talented. We already saw.
And he's creative too. Like, he brings other players. He brings other players into the game. He's very intelligent. He's good technique. He can hold the ball up. He can do different things.
Explosive, so explosive.
He can do different things to El Kaabi. He can play with him. He can play in formations without him. He brings like different dimension. And, you know, he scored the goal against Calidea. He came off the bench. He had impact. We won the game. So, like, we talk about impact subs. So, that, you know, there's a couple of ideas about impact subs. But again, it's early, guys. It's early. Come on, like 3 games in.
And we can. It's very important that we got 3 for 3 to start the season. Like, these points are going to be so valuable. Huge that we got out of
unlike
this
our competition, just like everyone says, keep bringing up the competition.
And also, like, that whole thing with the youth league final in Brazil really caught us off, because a lot of those players are going to be rotation players for us. So you know, we got out of it unscathed. We give Mendilibar more time. The team is going to gel. The base is there. You know what? Let's see, guys. Like, maybe some of you guys in the comments will come out right. Maybe we'll look bad, but like, I see the logic, and I'm going to support the team. And I know all of those of you criticizing as well are going to be in the stadium supporting the team for the 100 years. You know, if anything, Mendilibar deserves it. A lot of those players deserve it. El Kaabi, Carmo, Tsolakis, Rodinei. They deserve our support, and I know you guys are going to be supporting just like us this season. So I'm not criticizing any of you as fans, but like,
I couldn't agree with you more, Labro. Of course, everybody here is an Olympiacos fan. They're going to support the team no matter what. We are almost 1.5 hours in, guys, and well, it's it's been quite a night. It's been quite a summer as well. Well, the summer transfer window doesn't end until September 11. By the way, in Greece, we don't expect any more arrivals, to be honest. Any final thoughts, Costa? Because so we can wrap it up here.
EVAN FOURNIER. There you go. That's my last thought. But it's been a great pod. Enjoyed talking about all these things with you today, and looking forward to the rest of the season and basketball starting as well, man.
Great pod,
Absolutely.
Costa. Couldn't agree more. I'm excited to watch Olympiacos at all sports this season. I'm excited for basketball. I'm excited for football. I'm excited for some of the amateur sports as well. So I'm really looking forward to the season, guys. I can't wait for the international break to be over. Let's do it. Let's have a great season, and let's enjoy it.
Absolutely, guys. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us for another edition of 307 International. I was Kostas with my namesake and Labros. And, guys, we are wishing you a beautiful night, and let's keep the faith. Good night.